Today, in honor of The Witcher coming out on Netflix, we got Geralt of Rivia taking on none other than Spider-Man. Who comes out on top? Let's find out. Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider as a teenager, granting him spider-like powers. After the death of his Uncle Ben, which he could have prevented, Peter learned that with great power comes great responsibility. Swearing to always protect the innocent from harm, Peter Parker became the Amazing Spider-Man. Peter's proportionate strength of a spider left over 10 tons easily. He was able to go toe-to-toe with villains like Venom and Rhino. He even held his own against Iron Man and Hulk. When in stressful situations, Spider-Man is able to lift much more, even supporting the Daily Bugle at one point. He's up in an airplane before. Spider-Man has incredible durability. He's able to easily withstand blows from Hulk and Rhino, buildings collapsing on him, even the explosion from hand grenades. Peter is so tough that he once tensed his abdominal muscles against a trained boxer. The boxer ended up breaking his wrist. However, Spider-Man isn't nearly as durable to penetrative forces, and he can still be hurt by knives and bullets. He possesses the speed, agility, and reflexes of a spider. Really, this is probably one of Spider-Man's greatest assets. He's been described as fast as machine gun fire, move faster than the human eye can follow, described as the most agile character in the Marvel Universe, and can easily dodge bullets and projectiles. One of Spider-Man's most famous abilities is his spider sense, which kind of functions as a sixth sense of sorts, allows him to sense when danger is incoming. The spider sense, plus his speed, agility, and reflexes, make Spider-Man nearly impossible to hit. Peter also is able to crawl along walls and other surfaces. This ability also allows him to hold several tons with a single finger. Peter's most famous equipment are his web shooters, which he can use as a means of transportation, ensnaring opponents, and shooting small web bullets. Peter's an excellent fighter and was trained by Shang-Chi, unique form of martial arts that perfectly utilizes spider powers called the Way of the Spider. So that's what we got one corner, the web slinger, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But, entering the ring, at the corner, well, it's none other than Geralt of Rivia. Geralt is a witcher, a superhuman mutant monster slayer for hire. Shortly after his birth, Geralt was taken by his mother to a witcher stronghold, the School of the Wolf. While there, he was trained almost exclusively to kill monsters, practicing his swordsmanship skills and learning about monsters. Geralt is superhumanly strong, able to beat bears and even rock trolls to death with his bare hands. Also got some seriously powerful striking power, especially with his sword. He's able to cut off a monster's head with a one-handed sword swing and cut a large monster in half with one swing of his sword. Geralt is superhumanly durable as well. It's even said that witchers have an abnormal pain resistance. He's been sliced across the chest and completely ignored the pain, and even has incredible regenerative powers, and his healing factor allows him to recover from what would otherwise have been fatal wounds. Finally, Geralt is incredibly fast and agile. He's cut down crossbow bolts, dodged sword strikes and spear throws, actually able to swing his sword faster than the eye can follow as well. It's even said that Geralt is fast enough to cut down 20 men in the blink of an eye. Geralt also always carries around two swords, one made out of steel, one made out of silver, the purpose of killing humans and monsters respectively. He also always carries a dagger on him as a backup weapon. Geralt is exceptionally skilled with these swords as well, being called the greatest swordsman the North has ever seen. He's almost 100 years old, and constantly trains whenever he has spare time. He's killed 2 other witchers at once, killed 20 soldiers at once, even killed the King of the Wild Hunt himself. And even though witchers primarily use steel and silver swords, Geralt has been trained with most weapons, including battle axes, pikes, slingshots, and bow and arrows. Finally, Geralt has mastered 5 signs to use in his travels. Axii, which is a form of mind control. Ard, Thunderlight Blast. Quinn, a magical shield to protect him from harm. He's got a magical trap to slow things down when they get near. And Igni, flames that shoot out from his hands. and heliotrope, which is a berry designed to protect him from physical and magical harm. So, who wins? Well, let's break it down. Now, today, in celebration for The Witcher coming out on Netflix, which I pray to God is going to be good because it looks absolutely incredible, we're throwing Geralt into the battle arena. We're putting him up against no less than Spider-Man, which, believe it or not, is actually a great matchup for Geralt, specifically because Geralt spent his entire life training and battling against people like Spider-Man. So who's coming out on top? Well, that's what we're going to find out. Now, first things first, physicality. It's going to be a massive part of the fight. Because while Spider-Man is clearly physically superior, he's really got to push that physical advantage in order to get past Geralt's signs and weapons. And Geralt got to prove that he's even capable of hanging with Peter in a physical fight. So, first things first, how strong is Spider-Man? Well, Pete has held up part of the Daily Bugle skyscraper. He's entered a small private jet that's repeatedly either held up walls or even buildings, and has casually been able to pick up train cars. He also matched Rhino's strength, overpowered Iron Man and broken his armor, broken apart carbonadium tentacles, and he managed to redirect Mjolnir in midair. Again, grab Mjolnir right as Thor was trying to throw it. Spider-Man also just throws some seriously powerful punches. He staggered Hulk, Apocalypse, and Phoenix Force Cyclops, knocked around Namor, Thing, and Rhino, and one time sent Electro flying through 40 stories in a building. On the other hand, with Geralt, well, he's strong enough to casually break bones with simple strikes, able to pull back on a dragon's head, actually beaten both bears and rock trolls to death with his bare hands. He's also clashed swords with Enlorth's mace, and didn't budge at all when he blocked a downward strike from the mace, even though Enlorth is easily superhuman, and can effortlessly kill men with just one hand. Speaking of Geralt's swords, The Witcher has some serious striking power with those things, being able to easily decapitate or bisect monsters with just simple swings, even while swinging his sword with just one hand. Even when people are trying to block his sword strikes, he still has enough power to knock them to their knees, or actually send their own swords smashing back into their face. But here's the thing about Geralt of Rivia. We actually got two things to counter Spider-Man's strength advantage. First off, Geralt has his swords, and they're rather large swords at that. Peter usually just fights hand to hand, because it means that Spider-Man won't really be able to push his strength advantage. He's got to be a more cautious fighter. Fight from almost a defensive standpoint. Use a lot more speed and maneuverability. Won't be able to just press in and start throwing fists. Because Geralt's got his swords and could technically kill Spider-Man just one swipe. Secondly, as a Witcher, it is Geralt's job to kill monsters who he cannot compete with in strength. In order to do this, he relies on not even parrying attacks, but deflecting himself away from the attack, avoiding physical contact, and the like. So about durability. Well, all Witchers are said to have an abnormal pain resistance. Actually, but suggests that they doesn't even really feel pain while in a fight. This has been backed up by Geralt being sliced across the chest, but not even registering the attack, or taking attacks from monsters strong enough to easily rip humans in half. He's even got a healing factor, and exceptional powers of regeneration. Actually healed from attacks where the wound was so deep that all the insides of Geralt's throat were visible. But Geralt is going to have to display some serious blunt force durability or remain in this fight, because this is what Spider-Man will primarily be throwing at him. Well, Geralt has actually taken several hits from a fiend, got right back up, immediately kept on fighting, and fiends are walking mountains of muscle. One blow can kill both a horse and its armored rider, and even Witchers who specialize in the power of signs can't even move one inch. On top of that, Geralt also later said that the fiend he went up against was bigger, stronger, and faster than most. Spider-Man also won't know anything about Geralt, won't know what kind of punishment Geralt can take, so won't be going all out and throwing the same kind of punches that he would against Hulk or Juggernaut, On the other hand, Spider-Man is more than durable enough to take blunt force attacks from Geralt. He's taken attacks from Unstoppable Colossus, from Rhino and Hercules, literally been thrown a mile away by Hulk. So yeah, Geralt's got nothing on him. But that's okay because Geralt's going to be attacking with his sword, with his signs. So can Pete stand up to those kinds of attacks? Well, Geralt can shoot flames or launch telekinetic blast, but Spider-Man has taken thunderclaps from Colossus knots, so I had some massive explosions before. And while Spider-Man can obviously be injured by Geralt's sword, he's also been shot in the face at point-blank range, so his body is just more durable and tougher than you'd expect. But then finally, you got speed. This is a crucial part of the fight. Spider-Man is obviously a lot faster and agile than Geralt, so we really need to see if Geralt can hang in this category of Peter. So, first things first, just how fast is Spider-Man? Well, he's able to react and perceive time down to microseconds, dodge lightning blast and gladiator's heat vision after they were fired, and dodge attacks from literal super speedsters. And of course, Spider-Man is able to casually and routinely dodge all sorts of gunfire coming at him from all sorts of angles and all at once, really just making it look like the easiest thing in the world. He's even dodged guns before with the barrel of the gun pressed up literally against his head. Then his balance, agility, flexibility, and coordination are all second to none, probably making him the greatest gymnast and acrobat in the entire Marvel Universe. And so, question is Geralt even remotely fast and agile enough to hang with him in a fight and hold his own against Peter? And yeah, I'd say he can. Geralt is fast enough to cut crossbow bolts and arrows in half. And while it's obvious that bullets are faster than an arrow, just how fast are arrows and crossbow bolts? Actually, a good question. So Geralt deflected a crossbow bolt at a distance of less than 2 meters. Crossbows can fire at a velocity around 200 miles per hour, around 300 feet a second. So at a distance of maybe 5 feet, Geralt reacted to and deflected the bolt in a fight, which would make Geralt's reaction 60 times faster than the velocity of the crossbow. It means that he reacted to it and swung his sword within 0.01 seconds. That's some absolute crazy speed. On top of that, he's able to swing his swords faster than the eye can see. He's cut down 20 men in the blink of an eye, and even reacted to people while they were teleporting in mid-combat. Remember, Geralt has spent his entire life hunting down and killing supernatural monsters. All these monsters have superhuman speed, like werecats, and more importantly, high vampires. Let me just tell you that high vampires are insanely fast. They're actually considerably faster than Geralt, some of them by a good margin. Yet Geralt is still able to contend with them. It's just like strength all over again. Geralt has trained his entire life to hunt down and kill monsters, move stronger and faster. So he's got the experience and know-how to do it. I don't really think Spider-Man will be anything that drastically catches him off guard. Geralt is also just a ridiculously skilled and trained fighter, especially when it comes to swordplay. For starters, well, Geralt of Rivia is just plain older and more experienced than Peter. He's actually got decades more experience, in fact. And even though Peter has beaten more experienced fighters than himself, so has Geralt, taking down a 400-year-old fighter who was both physically superior and had magical powers. Geralt has also been referred to as the greatest swordsman that the North had ever seen. He's able to beat and kill other Witchers, even when double-teamed or blinded by a flash bomb. He's killed 6 highly skilled swordsmen all at once without getting hit one time, killed powerful beings like Aroden, the king of the wild hunt, even beating and killing higher vampires, who are arguably the most powerful creatures in the Witcher universe, that are known for killing Witchers. That's another thing, Geralt killed all these people. He will have absolutely no problem killing Peter in this fight. He will actually be going for the kill, while Spider-Man will inherently be holding back. Geralt also has magical signs. He can create shields to block almost anything that Peter can throw at him, use telekinesis to throw Spider-Man, send him flying backwards, shoot fire from his hands, can even call upon magical traps to slow down opponents. That'll really hurt Spider-Man, considering that speed is probably his greatest asset. But here's the thing. Just like Geralt is an insanely skilled fighter, especially with a sword, Spider-Man is also a very skilled fighter, especially with his particular power set. He's even developed the way the spider martial art form under the tutelage of Shang-Chi in order to perfectly utilize his spider powers. And just like Geralt has fought against people somewhat similar to Spider-Man, Spider-Man's also fought against people similar to Geralt and beaten them. I'm talking Taskmaster, Deadpool, Wolverine, Blade, and more. He's also real prone to disarming or breaking weapons. So if Pete is able to do that, well, there goes Geralt's only clear advantage. The second after, Spider-Man will be able to follow up with just a full-on assault in order to put him down. So Spider-Man definitely has the potential and ability to take Geralt down. This is even talking about Peter's webbing or his spider sense. Most swords aren't able to cut through Spider-Man's webbing. He's able to block attacks from Iron Man and Human Torch, are even tough enough to restrain the likes of Luke Cage, even Hercules. Spider-Man also loves to target eyes or hands, use webs in close combat, simply wrap people up. And the spider sense can alert Pete of danger that he can't see, hear, or smell. It gives him a 360-degree view of his surroundings. It slows time down to a crawl, allowing people to be 10 steps ahead of his opponents, runs through possible battle scenarios and tells him which ones are best while Pete is fighting. It even lets him position his body in order to minimize damage with attacks that he cannot dodge. So yeah, the spider sense is a massive advantage in his corner. So, who wins? Well, I gotta go with Spider-Man. Geralt of Rivia is a serious threat and a powerful, high-end, street-level character. But he's just a bit over his head here. Spider-Man is stronger, faster, and more durable than him. And Geralt's skill and magic aren't going to be enough to carry him to victory, seeing as Pete is durable enough to take the signs, and have also beaten people like Blade, Deadpool, Taskmaster, Wolverine, and Daken, who all fight with blades and are similar to Geralt in that regard. And Geralt has no counter to Spider-Man's spider sense, not getting out of it if he ends up getting caught in that webbing. Like we said, Geralt is just a little bit over his head here. Spider-Man really is too much. Spider-Man wins. But what do y'all think? I would love to hear your thoughts. Sound off in the comments down below. Also, be sure to like button, the subscribe button, turn on notifications, join the DanCo army, and I will see you next time.